Our first image today comes from panelist Alixandra Fazzina, and it was made in Zaatari, Jordan in January 2014, and features an 18-year-old refugee preparing for her wedding.
This photograph was made as part of a group project that I worked on with some of the other Noor photographers in Zaatari Camp in Jordan, which is and was the largest refugee camp in the region. We worked not for media, we worked on a series of images that were to be displayed as an exhibition. At the time there was a lot of media coverage about refugees escaping from Syria. But for me, what I often find when you see these situations visualized wherever they are in the world is that the images often follow certain tropes or are quite cliched, and we very, very rarely get to hear the stories beyond them. And for me, it's really important with whatever story I'm doing to try and use the photographs, I suppose, to engage people, to read, and then to follow the stories of the people within them, to not just understand what's going on, but why are they there, who are they, what do they expect.
To my eye, this is an unusual refugee photograph.
I also had a similar reaction to this image, and when I saw it, it felt kind of like a perspective by incongruity because it was so beautiful and the focus was more tighter when we're used to the kind of wider images that gives you a sense of the magnitude. And I think in looking at this image, it seems like it's highlighting a problematic or a tension in migrant coverage is how do you visualize the magnitude and still preserve the humanity?
What we're also talking about is the complexity of what we see is vetted by editors, what they choose, not what photographers take. That focus is not on the sensational image it's going to make the front page of a newspaper, but those tend to be what editors pick.
This is a wonderful, really a very evocative picture. The composition of the image, the intimacy that you spoke of, Alexandra, that I think is very, very vivid here, is in some ways a suspense of this crisis. I also would wish that these kind of images would make it in a much more robust way into the current framing of the crisis, which is in many ways very reductive. And this image, on the contrary, opens up and negates or at least questions the crisis through this focus on people's everyday and the insistence in some ways to preserve humanity and intimacy.
When I first saw this image, the idea that immediately came into my mind was a kind of human, stubborn insistence on normalcy. The use of light in this image evokes that quality too. You get the sense that this is both a special day and a special moment in the lives of these people, and also a kind of way to have hope in the face of a situation that I can only imagine does not offer a whole lot of that.
And at the same time, what's so interesting is that it's not entirely celebratory. It's not the cliche wedding bride preparing image. She's wearing her black coat. She's not yet in her bridal dress. So there's something pensive, much more ambivalent than the kind of full celebration. So that's how it does it very beautifully.
What also makes it not this totally celebratory is the young girl who's framed by the triangle between the head and the woman working on her. And her look is both a little sad, it's a little wistful. She's just enough out of focus that she's not really the focus, but her face is clear. That tells us there's a backstory here that's way more complicated. And I think that's one of the things that's fairly extraordinary about the composition of this image.